My name is Glenn Coggy. I am with Laborfront. We have been doing a table talk series for a little while now, and we interview candidates that are running for public office, but we also interview candidates that are running for international or union office. And tonight we have Rich Boyer. He's running for the Stallantis Chrysler Division of the UAW to be their next vice president. Rich, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and we'll get started.
Hey, first I'd like to thank you, Glenn, for inviting me on your show and taking the time out of your busy schedule to have this conversation. And I'd like to thank all the viewers that take the time out of their schedule to sit down and have some conversation. My name is Rich Boyer. I'm a 37-year employee of the UAW. I've held multiple positions in the UAW. I've been a chief steward, a skilled trades committeeman. I've been a local union president. I've been to 5 different plants in the Stallantis area. I started out at Local 12 in Toledo Jeep, and then I went from there to the Detroit Axle Plant or Eldon Axle Plant in Detroit. And from there, when the axle plant went down in 2010, roughly, I went to the Warren Stamping Plant for a year. And then after I left the Warren Stamping Plant, I went over to Warren Truck, where I'm at presently as a skilled trades committeeman. I'm a veteran. I was in the military in the early 80s. Right after getting out of the military, I went into the UAW. I've been to numerous constitutional conventions. I've bargained 3 local agreements successfully. Chaired numerous bylaw committees and things of that nature. So I've been around for a while, done a few things.
Right. So why Team Ganan and why now?
When this all started out and they went to the 1M1V, I was glad that happened, to be quite honest with you, because my opinion is that we can hold some people accountable. Now, Team Ganan, the reason why I joined Team Ganan is because I know John, proven leader. We cannot go into or change the administrative caucus without a proven leader. And you have to have somebody that has some integrity, that has backbone, that's loyal and honest. And that's why I picked Team Ganan, and that's why I picked it now, because right now is the time for change. If we don't try to correct what's going on now, I'm fearful that we won't have much left to save in the future, in the next 3 to 5 years, because they're nipping at our heels every day. And with the whipsawing of the plants back and forth at each other, using absenteeism as an excuse, using quality and everything, when they don't give you their measurables are almost unobtainable by the way they do them. Example, absenteeism. They count absenteeism as all in. So if a person's on a PA day or vacation, they consider that as an absenteeism, which is my honest opinion, bull. It's not true. Absenteeism, yeah, I tried to catch myself there.
Yeah, you got it. You're right.
Absenteeism is unforeseen. People that just don't come in. Not people that are on leave of absence, not people that are on PA day, not people that are on vacation, things of that nature. But the company seems to think that people are nothing but robots, that their only thing in their life that matters is going in there and building that product, while at the same time, that same manager might take that weekend off that he's forcing the people to be in there. The people have to be there. So, that's one of the things. Why now? If we don't do that, if we don't attack the pensions, if we don't attack increased pensions for the retirees, if we don't attack the supplemental workers, why would anybody be part of this union? Everybody talks about organizing. I think we need to clean up our own back door or backyard before we organize anybody. And I think Team Ganan has the people with internal fortitude to get that done.
Right. You're talking about them pushing organizing and stuff. One of the things we're hearing a lot on the plant floor is going back to defined pensions and COLA, not just for the active workers, but for retirees. Would you mind explaining what your position is on those?
I think that COLA, let's start with COLA. I think if, they throw a 3% raise or 4% raise every other year in any 4-year agreement. If you just had COLA in place, we wouldn't have to worry about the pennies that they throw us in that 3 to 4% raise every other year, or that one lump sum. So COLA is a must, especially with inflation climbing as it is now. Gas is going to be $4.50, $5 a gallon here very shortly. And as everybody knows, in the Stellantis department, we build SUVs. Right. We build big trucks, SUVs. So with gas going at that wage, How many of these are we going to sell if we don't get these, if we don't get COLA back? I
Right.
mean, how many? And as far as pensions are concerned, how do you expect a person that retires and is fortunate enough to live past 5 to 7 years of retirement to survive in today's day and age? How
Right.
do you expect them to? How do you expect them to buy their medicine? So they, do they have to choose between heat or their medicine or food on their table? And then you take a person, a proud person that's worked for 35, 30 years, and you have them basically begging for government assistance because we're not taking care of the people that took care of us. We're supposed to take care of the retirees in order because they left this to us. We have an obligation, moral obligation, to leave this to the next generation of people and
Yeah.
to take care of them. And I think we're selling ourselves short by not doing it. I think by the supplemental system that we put in place with the 2 tiers or tier system, we've taught all of our members, fend for yourself. Don't worry about your brother. Don't worry about your sister, as long as you got yours. And that's why we're in the state we're in.
Right. Well, I agree 100%. And, it's not just about the retirees, but which we do have to put some emphasis on getting them some pay raises or COLA put into the pensions, something like that. But our new hires are hiring in at 15.78 or $16 an hour, whatever it is. And you can go to work at Target making that much. Why would anybody take a job beating the hell out of themselves, chasing a chain in an auto assembly plant and completely when they could go down the street and work at Target making nearly the same money?
Glenn, let me say this to you. The supplementals, not only that, the point that you make, but the current language allows them to use them people. There was traditionally in the old days, they were for Fridays, Saturdays, and Mondays. And
Right.
then after they got a certain amount of time and they were rolled over to a permanent employee. Now they can use them 7 days a week. They can force them 10 hours a day, 9, 10 hours a day, and they can hold them there for. I talked to a kid just the other day who's been a supplemental employee for 5 years. They force them there 7 days a week, 6 and 7 days a week, 10 hours a day. So why would he have any loyalty to that company or to that product, to the quality of that product?
Right.
There's no loyalty shown to him. He's got no health care. 5 years. 5 years. I
Yeah.
mean, I mean, he's almost an indigent servant. And in all honesty, with that little spray of hope that maybe someday they'll turn me over. Maybe they will. Maybe they won't.
Rich, gone are the days where a guy could get out of high school, or a woman, man or woman, and get a job working down at the local auto assembly plant and work there 30 years, retire at 50, and have a good, healthy retirement with wealth, health care benefits and things like that, and enjoy the remaining years that they've got left. Those days are long gone. And it's frustrating. It's frustrating. I've got 25 years in UAW. The last 7.5 have been at General Motors. I hired in as a 2-tier employee there. And when I retire, I'm not earning a pension and I will not have health care. And that's one of the scariest parts of retiring. But it's also the reality that we face in today's corporate society. We do have a couple of questions that have been asked. The first one, or second or third, wherever we're at now. How do we fight the corrupt machine? They control everything.
The best way to fight the corrupt machine is for the people to elect delegates to the convention that can go in there and make change at the convention. Everybody has to understand. For years, they've thought that the Constitutional Convention was just a party. It's a party for the administrative caucus to wine and dine everybody because most people go there. They don't even attend all the sessions. The votes are yay and nay votes. You have to elect delegates to the convention that are going to stand up to the machine. And what I mean by that is make change in the Constitution because the Constitution is our Bible. And
Right.
unless we change our Bible and hold them people accountable, it's not going to change. To think that you can allow the same administrative caucus to stay in place and expect change, you're so sadly mistaken. That's not the way it can be or has to be. We have to go to the polls when you elect your delegates and ensure and ask the questions to the delegates. Before you cast that vote, go to your delegates at the local level and ask them, where do you stand with the administrative caucus? What do you think needs to change in the Constitution? Do you think we need to be status quo, or do you think we need to change? Do you think retirees need to be able to vote? Do you think retirees need to be able to run? Do you think we need to do something with pensions? Do you think we need ask the right questions? Because the delegates to the convention are the first step in changing this process. If we don't get the membership to stand up at that convention, then we're in trouble. We're going to go through 4 more years if we can survive 4 more years of the same old rhetoric.
You know, Rich, I don't know how it is in your plant, but in the plant I'm at there in Wentzville, Missouri at local 2250, the feeling on the plant floor is that we've got to have change. And we can't keep doing things the way that we've done and expect it to change. I know that's an old saying, but it's 100% the truth. We have got to do what we can to get people elected that have the courage to take on these troubling economic times that we're going in.
Glenn, can I say something else
Yes,
for you a little
please.
bit further? And as we're talking about the delegates to the convention, let's talk about the appointed reps here. Let's talk about that as well. The International Union right now is threatening reps and appointed reps that they better follow the machine or they could be some serious consequences. Now that they're doing that out of fear. They're doing that because they're fearing for their jobs and their own livelihoods. If you're an elected official, and I've been elected in 3 different plants, if you're an elected official, and I started from the bottom in every plant, and I worked my way back up. If you're honest, have integrity, and you do what you say you're going to do, the people will follow you. You don't need to threaten people. Them folks are threatening people because they know in their hearts they're not doing the right things that they're supposed to do for these people and this membership. So the thing I would say to all the appointed reps and to the local union officials that are hiding behind the tail skirts of the international union, remember this: you still have to be elected in your own plants. You still have to face your own people. Because once this election is over, then people downtown aren't going to remember you. They ain't going to give a shit whether you get elected or not, because they got what they needed to get done for themselves.
Right.
So I need to reach out to them people. They need to sit back and for once in your life, do what the people elected you to do. Stand up for them, the people you represent at the local level. Stand up.
I'm ready to vote for you. We have another question. I'm a retired member and I am worried I won't have a benefits rep. How can we make sure that the retirees have benefit reps?
That's something that Team Ganan would have to address in the event we get elected, because the bottom line is the international president can make that determination, make that happen. If you are a retired rep, if you are a retiree, excuse me, and you are at a closed location or any location, there's no way that rep should be pulled out. That benefits rep should be pulled out of that area. The person that needs that benefit rep more than anybody is that retiree.
Right.
You've got a rep in the plant. We can go see that rep. We can get online. We have access to the hub and things of that nature. The retiree doesn't have that.
Right.
They have, and the International Union talks about taking care of my brother. How are you taking care of your brother when you pull the benefit rep out of an area that has a closed plant status or has a number of retirees? They can't reach out. Okay, can't reach out to talk to somebody or go see somebody or visit somebody or sit down with somebody, have them walk them through something. You know, as we get older in age, it's hard to do things over the phone.
Right.
It's very hard. You need that face-to-face communication sometimes. And the way to address that is through the president's office and Team Ganan. And I believe that John stands for that. I believe that John, there's no way John would have ever let that happen. No way.
Right.
There's no way.
You know, it's just frustrating to see the way that the retirees have been treated. And the statement that was put out by President Ray Curry, refusing to let retirees run for International Executive Board, it frustrates me. And it has to be frustrating to any retiree that wants to still have a hand in the leadership and guidance of this union. And what does it say about us that we refuse to accept the knowledge and experience that these retired members have to offer? If they're willing to offer it, how crazy are we for not reaching out, accepting that and using that? And that brings us to our next question. Can anything change at the Constitutional Convention about retirees running?
Absolutely. The delegates of the convention could put a motion on the floor, and I suggest this to any delegate that makes it. If you feel this way that a retiree should run, go to the podium, put a motion on the floor that retirees can run. Then once that motion is seconded and passed, ask for a roll call vote. Important, very, very important, roll call vote That way, everybody has to go to that mic and state what their opinion is. They can't hide behind the clickers and the yays and the nays, and one guy's got a bigger voice than the other guy. No, roll call vote is important. And the administration will try to get away from that because then people can get up and speak their piece as opposed to them just saying, oh, the yays have it, the nays have it, and shoving it down everybody's throat. Roll call vote. Make sure that happens.
Rich, I've been to a handful of constitutional conventions myself. And one of the things that I have found as a delegate to the conventions is that everything is already, it seems like it's already planned out. Who's going to speak, what they're going to say. There's going to be a lot of questions about when someone could even go to the mic and nominate retirees to be able to run. How do we address that so that we make sure that we get it done?
You're absolutely right. That's why I made the comment that go to the podium, because what will happen, a person like myself, maybe a person like you, maybe some of the folks from UAWD, if the administrative caucus knows who you are, they'll do a couple of things. One thing, they'll bypass you when you're at the mic. They won't let you speak. Secondly, if you say something they don't like, mysteriously you'll have there's technical difficulties at the mic and you can't be heard. Then they'll have their minions with clickers clicking so you can't be heard. But if you have more than one person go to the mic with the same position, they can't drown out everybody. So my thought would be when that question comes, anybody that feels this way, flood the mics. If they shut down Rich Boyer, that's fine. They go to Glenn Cagney. They shut down Glenn, they go to Tom over here, or they go, but everybody has to go to the mics with the same. You can't let one person carry the ball on this. It has to be a group of people synchronized with one direction to make everybody understand what the direction is. And like I say, again, who's ever fortunate enough to make that motion, it's so important that you ask for a roll call vote. If you don't ask for a roll call vote, they're going to steamroll you. I'm telling you what's going to happen. I've had it done. I've been to numerous conventions. I've seen it all at the conventions. I've seen where they combine regions because they didn't like what the direction of one regional director was. I was there when 2 and 2B got put together. I sat there. When the whole administrative caucus stood up and turned their back on the Region 2 director, I was there. So you got to understand what you're up against. But at the end of the day, the Constitution says that in between the conventions, the governing body of the UAW is the delegates to that convention. So we control that if you have the internal fortitude to control it. You have to have the heart and soul to do it. And I'm talking about, it's easy to talk, but get up and do what you say you're going to do.
Right. As the vice president of Stallantis Chrysler Division, there's complaints. Our local union, we don't have a local union agreement at 2250 GM. I've heard of Chrysler locals that haven't had a local agreement for years. What's your position on encouraging the leadership and Chrysler to sit down and hammer out a local agreement?
First of all, Glenn, let's talk about the importance of a local agreement. The reason why it's important to have a local agreement, because every local has specific needs for their membership. And that leadership bargains on behalf of the membership they represent. And nobody knows better than what that membership that they represent needs other than that local leadership. So now, in order to make that happen, is that before you take a national agreement to the membership, you should make the company understand that we will not go to the table. We will not take a national agreement to the membership until every local is in sync. Every local is ready to ratify their local agreement at the same time we are our national agreement. And if the company don't understand it, then to me, that's a strikeable issue. Bottom line, because the local unions, by taking away the local union agreements, what the international union has done is taken away the power of the local union, period. And what they've done is they became a dictatorship by doing that. If you really read your Constitution, read Article 19, where it talks about the local union has the right to bargain on behalf of their membership. And the international union is not supposed to get in the middle of that. But by taking away, when they took away because when I first started out, they would not take the agreement to, and this is another John Gannett thing. I'm sorry to say, but it's the truth. When John was the top AAA, my first term as president, Mike Allen was my servicing rep. When we went into, as a first term president, we went into local negotiations.
Right.
I didn't know what to do. I was new. I'm not going to lie. I was 28 years old at the time. But they would not bring that national agreement till we were ready at the local level. So Mike Allen would call me twice a day. He'd say, Rich, where you at? What do you need? What do you need from me? I'll push from the top down, you push from the bottom up. And that's how we were able to get it done.
Right.
And
Right.
John stood for that.
Yeah. Well, I know that John is in the room, kind of waiting to jump in, and we'll get to him in just a second. But when it comes to negotiating these contracts, I'm not exactly sure how it all works. As vice president, what role do you play in this contract, or is all that done by the international? I'm sure if I have questions about it, there's other people out there that will see this video that'll have questions too.
Reframe that question. I'm trying to understand what you're asking me.
Well, what I'm asking is when it comes to the contract negotiations, do the vice presidents of each of the big three play a role in these negotiations, or is all that handled by the international union?
Are you talking about the national agreement or the local?
National.
National agreement, from my understanding, how it works, and this is, you have sub-councils. All the sub-councils go into negotiation. The vice president, he does with the monetary point of the agreement, as far as wages and benefits and things of that nature. Now, the sub-councils come out with all their recommendations or what they've approved. They bring them to the vice president to buy off on, should I say, to bless. And the vice president is, in my opinion, if there's a problem with sub-councils having, then that's his job to step in and help that sub-council get what they think they need. But the sub-councils of the local unions that are comprised of all the different local unions that are elected to be on the sub-councils, it's their responsibility. Each sub-council has a different role. And the vice president just oversees it. He doesn't get in it unless he has to. But his job is to make sure the monetary piece is all put together.
Right. One last thing before we bring John in. It's obvious that gas engines, diesel engines are going to be going the way of EVs, electric vehicles. We've seen it. Ford, Chrysler, GM all have prototypes that are coming in. Heck, some of them are starting to hit the streets already. What is your position on trying to keep these jobs for the UAW, protect the jobs that we have and bring these into the UAW?
Well, first of all, it's new territory. Nobody really knows what it consists of. Everybody's just learning right now. But one of the problems we have is the sourcing of all of our components anyways. So if we're not going to need the chassis, for example, the powertrains, so to speak, why couldn't we insource some of the components, the electrical components, the motors, the batteries, whatever the case may be? It's such a big realm right now. I'm not sure exactly what it all is yet. And for me to tell you I know all of that, I would be telling you an untruth. That's not true at all. My thought is that we'd have to look at the component, we'd have to look at the vehicle, break it down by component, understand how it's put together, where it's put together, where it's bought it, and why we can do this work. And what would it take as far as new technology to be able to do it in our facilities? Because we still have members. Our members are still going to need these jobs.
Right. As long as we have a seat at the table where we can negotiate.
We have to see a seat at the table.
Right. Well, let's bring John in and talk to John about it. John Gannan is with us. He is candidate for international president, or president of the International United Auto Workers. John, why don't you come in, give us a little bit about yourself, and then tell us some of your thoughts on the conversation we've been having tonight.
Okay, well, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, first of all, thank you for the invite, Glenn, and thank you, Rich, for explaining everything out. Let me just go back to one thing real quick while it's fresh on our mind. You talked about local agreements, and Rich kind of walked you through that. That's a long process. You go to the membership, it goes from the membership to the Chrysler department, or Stallantis as we speak now. Then it goes into subcommittees and they vote on them, all the proposals. And then it goes to the bargaining committee. They go through that process. And then naturally, after that's done, it comes back to the council again, and the council will vote on that. And once all that process is done, we finally have the final book on what the proposals will be presented to the company. Now, Rich kind of walked you through what my position was when I was the top A in the Chrysler department. Never before has anybody ever taken that position that I took, that they will not have an agreement on the national agreement until all local unions settle their local agreements. And that included up to striking for any local union that needed it if they did not get their local union settled. So that was the condition. So I told the company, you can take it for what it's worth, but that's the way it's going to happen. Why I actually took that position was for two reasons. It benefits both sides, and sometimes the other side's too dumb to realize it, but you have to walk through it. You can either close them all out at the time you're doing a national agreement. I think it gives the local unions a little bit more power to extract what they need in a set of negotiations, because they have that power that it needs to be settled. In most cases, it puts a lot of pressure on the company to settle them, because if they do not, they're holding up national negotiations, which could lead to a strike over that issue alone. So basically, as I told the company, if you wait and don't settle local agreements and you do them during the life of the agreement, you're going to be in negotiations consistently doing one thing, being challenged with local contracts, and we're going to be given strike authorizations. So either side really benefits from that. So that's basically why I proposed that. And in all fairness to it, it was completely settled in 96 that way. And we come back in 99 and did it the same way. The local unions were quite satisfied the way it was handled. And I think the company even had to compliment us on it by saying it benefited their end of it too. So really, it was an issue that benefited both sides. But like I said, the purpose of it was people that know how to negotiate local agreements, such as the presidents and the chairman and the committee itself. This is a time to put your die-hard demands on that table and try to extract that, because now you got the power to do it. And in the absence of them not doing it, we very well might not have reached a national agreement. And that's the reason I did that.
John,
Now,
I'll
a
tell you
little bit.
real quick, I'll tell you what, it kind of reminds me of the kid on the playground having to go up against the bully and having his big brother standing there looking over his shoulder. And that's how you get the demands. That's how you get to things for the locals when you use the power and influence of the international union. I think that's great.
Well, it's not only the power. What it does is, in most cases, it gives the local union the confidence that they need. It's not sitting across the table and the company just rejecting the proposals and can't give you any merit why they are. This tool was there for one reason. You're going to listen to that bargaining committee. And as Rich described, they know what the membership needs. That's their house, and they're within the walls, and nobody knows it better than them. And this is the time to push for what you need, because in the absence of you not doing it at local, you know the consequences, that it will not go away, and you'll be living with the problem for another 4 years. Just to touch on one more issue, and then I'll kind of flip it back to Rich. The EV issue is going to be a continuous issue that's going to just grow bigger and bigger closer we get to the corporation making this big turn in technology. A lot of people have made a lot of suggestions. I don't know about the other candidates and what their positions are. A lot of them have talked in different areas, and I'm complimenting them for whatever they come up with. They're trying to come up with answers. And like all of us, we don't know all the answers at this time on the EV situation. A lot of us talk about organizing. A lot of us talking about different methods to make sure that we don't lose a large amount of our membership through this transition of EVs. I am a person, and I probably will never change. I believe that this kind of problem has to be resolved at a bargaining table. And I'm strongly for that, because there's nothing wrong with pursuing organizing. I'm all for that anytime, anywhere. but most of these companies are going to probably head south, like they normally do. Probably in areas of Tennessee, Alabama, areas there, knowing that they can feel very comfortable there, that we won't be able to organize there because not many people do, and we have not been successful. I mean, not to criticize organizing. I know they do their very best to get everything done. Sometimes they just run into walls that you can't get it accomplished. We tried for 5 years to organize the Daimler plant in Alabama with no success whatsoever. Shelby made sure that wasn't done, and the governor of Alabama made sure that wasn't going to happen. So I don't know if we would ever be successful there in investing all that money, and that's a concern I have. I don't mind spending money if it's going to grow the UAW, but I do mind spending it if it's going to do nothing for the UAW. And so my position is going to be that it's going to be a subject matter that we have to discuss across the table. And that's pretty much where I'm at. The powertrain business, and Rich said something that kind of we have thoughts on. If we're going to be in the EV business, we don't expect it to be excluded out the UAW in anything that goes into that product. That's our job, and that's what we want. Now, technology is going to change things. It does not change the fact that we still have a right to that job. And that's my position, and that's what it's going to be. Will it turn into a nasty war? I hope not. But whatever it turns into, we got to be able to stand up to it and take it on. And that's my position.
Right. Well, Rich, is there anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I want to comment on what John said, was talking about in negotiations. You know, he was describing national negotiations, but I want to talk about the importance of the local negotiations again. You know, I'm going to tell a story. Like I said, my first term as president was in 2000, and when I went into the bargaining table, when it all started out, I was meeting with the company, and the company would every time I would send a demand across the table, he would set it aside and he'd say to me, well, I got to get approval from up north on this. I got to get approval from up north on this. I can't commit to this. I can't commit to that. So I talked to a fellow named Mike Allen out of Syracuse. He was my servicing rep at the time. I explained to him what was going on. He says, Rich, he says, you got the support of the International Union. He says, you deal with that any way you want. So the next day in negotiations, I walk in, we sat down with our binders. We sat down nice and professionally like we did. The company HR manager sat down, as arrogant as he was. He opened up his binders. He says, are you ready to begin? And I had pre-arrangements with my committee. I said, guys, the minute he opens up his books, we're all going to stand up. We're going to shut our books. And I'm going to tell him, when he has the ability to sit down and negotiate the table with this local union, then we'll come back to the table. But if I got to deal with everything being approved by up north, then send somebody down here that can do the effing job. And we got up and we walked out. By that afternoon, I don't know what calls were made. That man came back to the table and he was willing to get a local agreement with us. And that was because I knew I had the support of the International Union, and they would not take the agreement to the membership until we had our local agreements. And that's why it's so important. And I was a newly elected president at that time. I got elected in June. I was negotiating in September. So that's why people have to understand the importance of it.
Right. No, that's excellent. And that is the importance. And that shows the role that the International can play in support of their local unions when it comes to these issues.
And like I say, it goes back, and I'm not trying to make it one-sided, but it goes back that John was the guy I was dealing with. So when people ask me why John, I have a history. I understand what he stands for. I understand where he's coming from. Do we always agree? No, absolutely not. But 99% of the time, we think the same way.
Right. Right. Well, what are some of the main issues that the local unions are facing?
The abuse of the supplemental workers, the forced overtime. They just did a waive. They waived at the assembly plants that you can't take. Well, they said they took it to arbitration, so I shouldn't even say that. But they lost an arbitration case saying that you can't call in PA days on Fridays. Saturdays and Mondays, which I don't know how we lost that when it's right in the agreement. I just, I don't understand that. But that the whipsawing of plants against each other, the CEO and his group coming into the plants and saying, hey, if your plant don't get their absenteeism down to such and such percentage, we're gonna take the work out of your plan. We'll put it in Rich's plan. And we'll do so. That's whipsawing. That's classic whipsawing.
Right.
And nobody's saying anything about it. It's just, it seems to be, my question has been for some time now of the International Union, and not trying to be critical, is give me a list of the things that they cannot do as opposed to the list that they can, because it seems to be the list that they can is far greater than the things that they can't.
Right.
Oh,
And if it's no consolation, but we face the same issues at General Motors. We're running into the exact same issues and problems that you all are having.
Glenn, you said you got 25 years, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now let me ask you a question. And I asked this question to the whole audience. There was a time when we were prideful coming into these plants and doing these jobs. We were prideful in our communities. We were active in our communities. Now, 80 to 85% of the people come to work and they're going through the motions. They've taken all the pride out of it. They've taken all the dignity out of the places. They don't support the communities anymore. So, I mean, are we going to just become a Kelly service? A high dollar Kelly service? I mean, is that what we're after?
That almost seems like that's where we're at. And when I was president of Local 2250, I had 3 goals for every one of my committees. And the first thing, or 3 things that they had to do when they would make a proposal, whether it was for community action or whatever, my first question is how does this relate to the members in the plant? Will it get them more engaged? What will it do for the morale in the plant? Second is, what will it do for the community that our plant was located in? Is it going to boost the morale? Is it going to change the opinion of the community towards the UAW? Are we just going to be viewed as the people that clogged their roads and streets at shift change? And then the last one was, how does this relate to the Constitution? Because those are the 3 main things. And if it didn't meet all 3 of those sets of criteria, we didn't do it. So we have to work and reach out, and community involvement and participation is of utmost importance to every local union, because if you do go on strike, you need that community behind you. It's imperative.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
Yeah. You touched on delegates a little bit ago and a little bit about how that works. And it's important for people to hear that because, like I said, I've been to a handful of conventions and I've seen them do everything that you've said. I've seen the clickers where they drown the people out that are talking. I've seen them tell people that they're out of order when they try to present a motion. I've seen it all. So it's going to be vital to have people that have the experience to kind of put together a game plan on how to approach this. But outside of that, how important is it for these local unions, for people to run for delegate in their local unions? How, to this convention, how important is that to your cause?
It has to happen. I mean, it's the most important thing, that it's the number one step in trying to get things changed. It has to happen. And like I said, when you got a person coming to ask you to run for delegate, ask them the questions. What does a delegate do? How does a delegate go change change part of the Constitution? Because I think a lot of people that they run for delegate, they don't really know what they're running for. They don't understand the importance of this. Is the most important conference next to the bargaining conference that we have. This is how we set up our rules and running. And people go just to go, and they don't understand what it's all about. And then I've been times at the convention, Glenn, when you're wondering if there's even enough people in there to hold a quorum, because everybody's sitting outside in the hallways talking, or they've snuck out and went home for the day, and they haven't done the business of the people that elected them to do. When you get elected as a delegate, your job is to sit in that auditorium, other than when you go for break to use the restroom, to listen to the proposals being talked about, to debate, have good, honest debate, to vote honestly, not to just say yay to everything they tell you.
Right. One of the things I've seen at the conventions is local unions vote as a block. if your local has 6 delegates and 4 of them want to support John Gannon for president and 2 of them want to support a different candidate, your local, that was how it seemed like it went. It didn't go 6 or 4-2. It went all 6 would go for John Gannon. That's how it was at the last convention I was at. We had one person that was not in favor of the administrative caucus, and he was shunned by our local. And it was kind of frustrating. That's an issue where it should be 1 member, 1 vote at the convention as well. 1 delegate, 1 vote.
But Glenn, at the same point, if that 1 delegate didn't want to vote for the administrative caucus, he could have went to the podium and cast his vote another way, right?
Well, yeah, he could have, but when they stood up, when they were asking, each local, and you were there, I mean, you were
Oh, I
there,
was there.
but our local stood up, announced what local they were from, and said, we cast our votes, our 6 votes or 7, whatever it was, for the administrative caucus. Well, actually, they said Gary Jones, I believe. And they did that right down the line.
Well, see, that's where I go back to, you have the internal fortitude to stand up, because you have that right as a delegate to go cast that vote in any direction you want. You do
Right.
not have to vote in the block. You can say, hold on for a minute, I want to vote my own, and you have the right to walk in, podium and say, I, Rich Boyer, I vote for John Gannon.
Right.
The
Well,
other 5 may do whatever they want. As a matter of fact, I did that when they, I'm trying to find a copy of it, but in 14, I want to say is when they took the dues increase. Do you remember that?
was that 14?
I think it was
The
14.
dues, it was 14, because that's
was
when they
14.
changed the name of the strike
Yes.
fund to the
Yes.
strike and defense fund, and allowed the international to use $60 million out of the strike fund over the course of 2 conventions for a variety.
That's the point I'm making. Okay,
Yes.
here's the point I'm making. Exactly what you're talking about. My local union. Let's do a little history on this. First, the regional director came out to the local union and talked to the delegates, which I was one. And in his speech, he gave us this reasoning why he wanted to, or why the International Executive Board wanted to increase the dues by half an hour. In that meeting, I questioned him on it, because one of my questions is that you guys are saying, because the theme of the day was that you wanted to put more money in your war chest in the event you had to take them out. If you remember correctly, that's what the theme was.
Right.
And my thing was, I've been here for almost 30 years now. You don't take anybody out. That's bullshit. What do you want the money for? Because we want to increase the war chest, Rich. No, you don't. So I voted against it there at my local union. The rest of the delegates all voted in favor of it. At the convention,
Right.
I went up and gave a speech against it. And I told them at that time, I said, and in my speech, what I said to them is that if you guys want a pay increase to your pockets, and it's on tape, I'm trying to find the tape, I really am, then why don't you do this first? Go into national negotiations, get some good contracts for the members that you represent, make the people proud again, and then come back and ask us for a pay increase. But you haven't done anything for these people, but yet you're telling me that you're going to build a war chest. You're not building a war chest. This is so
Right.
you guys can increase your pay.
Not to mention at the same convention, it's Article 16 of the Constitution.
Yes, it
They
is.
also took it where the interest earned on the strike fund goes into the general fund, and the language is pretty vague about how they can spend that as well.
It's a slush fund, Glenn.
Is that
I'll
what
say
they
it.
call it? That's
I'll
not
say
the
it.
way
It's
it
a
reads.
slush fund.
That's not what it says in the Constitution.
I'll say it. It's a slush fund. I'm going to say it. I don't care. It's the truth.
But that's the kind of stuff that got that administrative caucus in trouble. That's why a dozen of them have done jail time, is
Okay,
over
so-
nonsense like that. And that's the shit that's got to be that's the stuff. I don't want to hear things. That's the stuff that needs-
So with that being said, now does everybody understand the importance of the delegates to the convention?
yes.
Understand the delegates.
Well, look, John, Rich, I'm sorry. I got a couple more things we'll address, and then we'll start wrapping
I
this
got
up.
you, didn't I? I got you, didn't I? I got you excited, didn't
Yeah,
I?
you did. You got me a little fired up. I tell you what, I've been reading that and kind of studying that, and it just frustrates the heck out of me that they were allowed to push that through, and there's been almost no conversation about it. So it's just frustrating as hell. Anyway, anybody that's out there that wants to see this, that wants to have questions or input, we have a website. It's Ganan for UAW.com, GUINAN, the number 4, UAW.com. By all means, go to the website, learn more about John, and as we upgrade the website with information about Rich and anybody else that joins Team Ganan, it'll be on that website. But we also have an email, and if you have questions about anything related to the UAW, their campaigns, ideas, the email is J as in John, G as in Janan, the number 4, UAW@gmail.com. So JG4 at JG4UAW@gmail.com. Anyway, Rich, yeah, it's great having you. We could have these conversations all night, and kick back about old times and stuff like that. But it's time to look forward and make some new times. And we can't do it by allowing things to go the way that they have gone. This union is in terrible shape through the corruption, the inability to organize. We've gone from over 1 million members down to 400,000-ish. We need some strong leadership to step up. And I wouldn't be having you on Table Talk if I didn't think you were the guy to come in and do this. I think the world of you, and I've only met you a few months ago, but I can tell that your commitment is to building this union and helping this membership and taking it back to the once great glory that we had before. And John Ganan is exactly the same way. So I'm going to turn it over to you for closing comments.
Yep. Let me say something close. I don't understand for the life of me where the IAB board or Mr. Curry comes from, not allowing the retirees to run for office. I kind of wonder if it's out of fear that he may lose, because the retirees, they're probably one of the most focused groups once they get together and they put their mind on something. And I think that he's afraid. I think that he's hoping that by them not being able to run, he'll be able to maintain status quo, and that's what he's after. The question I'll leave to everybody is, can we afford status quo? Can we stay the course? I mean, my answer is no. We can't stay the course. And some of the biggest mistakes we made is the tier system that divided this membership. I don't know what you guys think about the Viva, but my thought when that first happened, to be quite honest with you, you got these big companies making billions of dollars saying that they can't afford the retirees' healthcare, but yet we're going to give you some money and you go take care of it. Really? That, to me, I don't understand that.
Right.
I mean, I never did, and I don't. Maybe there was some things behind the scenes I don't know. But in closing, I think that we can't stay status quo. If we stay status quo, we might not be talking about this 4 years from now.
No.
Might not be much to talk about.
Nope. You're absolutely right, Rich. I appreciate you coming on Table Talk. And I know
Right.
some of these questions have kind of come from left field, but you've been around a little bit. Rumor has it you were involved in building the first Flintstone mobile. I don't know if it's true or not, but that's a rumor circulating.
Let me say this to you: if you call me Bunny Rubble, we're gonna have a problem.
I won't do that. But Rich, thanks for coming on Table Talk.
All right, guys.
Laborfront. We'll be getting this video processed. We'll post it on YouTube and get the link shared everywhere that we possibly can. To the people that are watching, please share this video, talk it up on your plant floors, encourage people to run for delegate that think the same way that Rich and John do. If we don't get them elected, I really fear for the future of the UAW. And I don't really want to say anything negative about anybody else, but the time is now, and we're not going to make it if we don't start getting people elected that'll stand up and take the fight to the company on behalf of the members. Rich Boyer, John Ganan, Team Ganan is the way to go. Thanks for coming on Table Talk, Rich. I'll see you later, brother.
As always, Glenn. As always. Good night,
Right on.
everybody.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.